Tonight on NewsWatch, pastors march on Capitol Hill and plea for the DREAM Act to pass. But does it send the wrong message to illegals?
Plus, unconstitutional, a major blow to the president's new health care law. Will the Supreme Court get the final say? And author and humorist P.J. O'Rourke is here with his take on the financial crisis, tax cuts, and the bailout. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Church leaders are sending Congress a message: pass the DREAM Act. Good evening, I'm Lee Webb. And I'm Wendy Griffith. It's the bill that creates a path to citizenship for children of illegal immigrants. A group of Christians marched on Capitol Hill today, calling for the Senate to pass the measure. They feel it's a religious duty to back these illegals, but many argue it rewards those who are breaking the law. Paul Strand was at the march and has tonight's top story.
On a day where the wind chill dropped temps to the teens in Washington, these mostly young religious believers braved the bitter cold to march for the DREAM Act. It's a bill aimed at young people, children of illegal immigrants, and would let them become legal if they go to college or join the military. Why is this issue interesting religious believers?
One of our responsibilities and callings as followers of Jesus Christ is to be hospitable, particularly to the stranger, to the foreigner.
If these young illegals can get college educations,
we will have the architects and the teachers and the doctors and the lawyers. We will have the spiritual leaders that we need into the future.
Their parents may have not come here appropriately. The kids had no idea what was happening, and they've gone through our public school systems. They want to go to college, they want to go to work, they want to be in the military, and there's no way for them to do any of that.
But opponents say America didn't put these young people in this position.
Children often suffer from the mistakes of their parents. If you take out a mortgage that you can't pay and lose your house, your kids don't get to keep living there just because they're the children. I mean, it's I don't mean to be flip or anything, but that's the way it is. I mean, parents are the ones who are morally responsible for what they do to their children.
These marchers say only good can come from educating young illegals and letting them serve their country. Krikorian's group estimates the DREAM Act would cost taxpayers about $6 billion a year, and illegals could take up slots at some colleges that would have gone to American-born students. It may all be academic. Many Republican lawmakers and some Democrats are doing all they can to block the bill. The main problem for the DREAM Act is it may not have a dream of passing, with only a couple of weeks left in this lame duck session, and with more Republicans in the next Congress, even less chance next year. Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Capitol Hill.
Meanwhile, South Carolina police have flagged hundreds of illegal immigrants for deportation. It's all part of a new federal program. Officers there say it is a success, but critics argue it opens the door to racial profiling. Ephraim Graham has that story.
The federal screening program is being used in Charleston, South Carolina, and here's how it works. Once a person is arrested and booked into jail for breaking a local or state law, specially trained officers act as immigration control agents and check that person's status. This detention center applied for the program 4 years ago after a survey of foreign-born inmates.
We discovered that there were 182 illegal aliens that had been booked into the jail for non-immigration charges.
The inmates must be charged with breaking a state or local law before the program's process begins. But several human rights advocate groups say it could lead to racial profiling.
In spite of the best intentions of law enforcement leadership, that in practice people will be stopped for very minor violations. Could it be jaywalking or not having a traffic signal on when one is turning, and asked for their papers.
But officers say they're simply targeting people who break the law, and they're not on the hunt for illegals.
This program has nothing to do with who is selected to come to jail for arrest. It has, until they're arrested, until they're brought to jail, we don't know that they exist.
The Charleston, South Carolina Latino Association has also spoken out against the program, but police say it's a success. Ephraim Graham, CBN News.
The challenges against President Obama's health care law are almost certain to end up before the U.S. Supreme Court. The law suffered its first major legal setback Monday when a federal judge in Virginia declared a key part of the plan unconstitutional. He challenged the mandate that requires nearly every American to buy health insurance. The Justice Department says today it will appeal that ruling. Florida and 20 other states are part of a separate lawsuit. A Florida judge will hear oral arguments in that case later this week.
Jordan Sekulow joins us now. He's with the American Center for Law and Justice. Jordan, you've looked over the judge's ruling. This is no doubt a win for the opponents of the health care plan. But do you think his opinion went far enough?
I think it went about as far as it could for a district court judge here, considering that the individual mandate and the penalty that if you don't buy health insurance, it was an issue here that he declared unconstitutional, doesn't go into effect until 2014. There's some criticism that he didn't issue an entire injunction, but he held it unconstitutional. That means as of right now in Virginia, the people are exempt from the health care mandate. Now, this will be appealed, of course, by the Department of Justice. But what he has done is he's the first conservative judge, the first judge appointed by a Republican. He was appointed by President George W. Bush in 2002 to look at the health care law and the constitutionality of it. And he found it unconstitutional. And this will lay the groundwork for the judges and I believe the justices who will decide whether or not Obamacare ever goes into effect. Because without the individual mandate, you just can't pay for it.
Jordan, 2 other federal courts have ruled to uphold this law. What's the significance of the Virginia ruling?
Well, again, those 2 judges were both Clinton nominees. This was an important case because the first one brought on behalf of the state, the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's similar to that Florida challenge that'll be happening this Thursday with the oral arguments, and that this is the state saying their citizens do not have to be subject to this law, a states' rights argument and a citizens' rights argument. And so it is a little bit different. It adds a lot more weight than just maybe individuals challenging it at the court. So I think this decision will lay the groundwork for how conservative judges in the Court of Appeals and then eventually the 4 conservative justices on the Supreme Court will handle this. As we know from this challenge, and the Obama administration has admitted it, as well as this judge, this will likely be decided by the Supreme Court. We know there's 4 conservatives, 4 who are very liberal, and 1 who leans conservative but is moderate, Justice Kennedy. He's the one to persuade.
Well, what kind of timeline are we looking at? How long before it would go to the Supreme Court?
Well, we saw Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell and Attorney General Cuccinelli ask for a direct appeal to the United States Supreme Court, and that is allowed under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure if there's something that needs to be decided by the court immediately. They would probably need the Department of Justice to agree with them there. Now that the DOJ has announced they're appealing to the Fourth Circuit, I'm not sure that will happen, but Governor McDonnell and Attorney General Cuccinelli, they make a good point. Listen, even if Virginia citizens don't have to comply with this mandate until 2014, the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth, has to start spending millions of taxpayer dollars getting ready to comply with the 2014 individual mandate. And what Governor McDonnell has said is, why waste all of this taxpayer money if the Supreme Court may hold this entire piece of legislation, and specifically the mandate, unconstitutional?
Jordan Sekulow with the American Center for Law and Justice. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
The U.S. Senate is set to pass the tax deal worked out between the White House and congressional Republicans. Then it goes to the House, where angry Democrats have been digging in their heels. Heather Sells has that story.
The Senate stands poised to give final approval to a bill that will extend all the Bush-era tax cuts for at least 2 years. That after a vote to prevent any filibusters of that bill passed 83-15 Monday.
Taken as a whole, the bill that the Senate will allow to proceed does some very good things for America's economy and the American people.
Washington's politicians hope this will make America's businesses feel it's safe to hire and invest.
Passing this bill so that the biggest tax hike in the history of the country won't happen is one thing that'll bring some certainty.
Though many Democrats feel big tax breaks for the rich aren't the way to go.
Extending tax cuts for the wealthy is one of the least effective ways to create jobs.
Passage in the House is much more up in the air. Last week, angry Democrats voted to keep the deal as is from reaching the House floor. But their Majority Leader, Steny Hoyer, expects a turnaround before the lame duck session ends next week.
I think we will pass a bill.
Even if liberal Democrats refuse to go along, though, there are likely enough Republican and moderate to conservative Democrat yes votes to approve the deal and prevent tax hikes January 1st. Heather Sells, CBN News.
And stay with us, because I'll be talking with author and satirist P.J. O'Rourke about why Tea Party conservatives are opposing this tax deal.
The House is planning to consider a new bill this week that would overturn Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the policy banning gays from openly serving in the military. Democrats are pushing for repeal during the lame duck session. They have no chance of getting it passed next year under the new Republican-controlled House. The new bill will likely pass the House this week. That would put pressure on the Senate to delay adjourning for the holidays to consider its own repeal bill.
Michael Steele says he will seek a second term as chairman of the Republican National Committee. That despite a rocky two-year term marked by allegations of financial mismanagement and verbal gaffes. In 2009, Steele was chosen as the first black GOP chairman. The RNC will vote on a new leader next month. That person will oversee the party's operations during the 2012 presidential race.
One of America's leading diplomats died Monday after 2 surgeries to repair a torn artery near his heart. For nearly 50 years, Richard Holbrooke played a major role in U.S. foreign policy. He began his career during the 1960s in Vietnam. He later served as ambassador to the United Nations and Assistant Secretary of State twice. Perhaps his greatest accomplishment, though, helping hammer out the peace deal that ended the bloody Bosnian conflict in 1995. During his final assignment, he served as special envoy to Pakistan and Afghanistan. Holbrooke warned long ago the Afghan war would be America's longest. Former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger once said of Holbrooke, quote, "If Richard calls you and asks you for something, just say yes. If you say no, you'll eventually get to yes, but the journey will be very painful." Richard Holbrooke was 69 years old.
Coming up, 'tis the season for firefighters. Life-saving tips for keeping your Christmas fire free.
The doctor came in. I was still waking up from anesthesia. He leaned over my bed and he said, "Laura, you have cancer." And he walked out of the room. The first thought is, what's going to happen to my children?
It's pretty rare for a person as young as me to get Hodgkin's disease. You would think, am I going to be here next year? Am I going to be able to spend more time with my family? And that was really hard.
The doctor says I would like to have his wife, his pastor, and his 2 best friends present. Then you know you're about to receive really bad news. There was very little hope given to us.
I just wanted this cancer out of me. I wanted to take care of it and move on.
We saw an ad on TV for Cancer Treatment Centers of America. And when I called them, I was very surprised that they were so quick to help us.
The second that we walked through the door, I knew that was the place that I wanted to be. If it wasn't for their kindness and giving, it would be unbearable to be able to go through something like that. And I honestly don't know how people who don't get that are able to handle it.
We were looking for medical care that would help us fight cancer, not manage it, but to actually fight it and beat it. And that's what we found.
Most people thought that that was a death sentence. I knew that I wanted to fight this. I knew I wasn't going to let that happen to me.
If you're a winner and you're a fighter and you're strong, you're going to stay that way. Your mental makeup, your attitude that you've taken your whole life with you, you're going to keep that attitude.
I said, let's just do it, and let me go on with my life.
Call now and we'll send you this free DVD that shows you how the most compassionate group of people anywhere puts you at the center of everything we do. Advanced medical treatment combined with unique supportive therapies give you treatment options you may not even know exist.
Cancer Treatment Centers of America is the way of the future. Patients are now taking control of their own healthcare destiny.
I truly wondered when he had cancer if I would ever get him back. Thanks to Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I have my husband back.
A British judge has granted bail to WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. The Australian has been behind bars in a UK prison. He surrendered himself after an arrest warrant was filed against him in a Swedish sex crimes investigation. Swedish authorities say they'll appeal the British judge's decision to grant bail. That means Assange will remain in jail for at least another 48 hours.
A judge in Alaska refuses to block an abortion notification law. The new state law requires that parents be contacted before girls under the age of 18 have an abortion. Voters approved that law in August. Planned Parenthood, though, quickly challenged it, arguing it violates minors' rights and would result in girls being too scared to seek medical help. A Superior Court judge rejected that challenge after he made minor changes to the original bill.
The massive snowstorm that slammed the Midwest is now moving east. More than half of the country is feeling the effects of the storm system. The governor of Florida has declared a state of emergency. Citrus farmers were not ready for the freezing temperatures that are now threatening their crops. Meteorologists say it's not over yet. The eastern part of the country will be getting hit with the bone-chilling cold for at least another few days. And we've been feeling it here in Virginia, haven't we?
Yeah, it's so sad to see the oranges in that state.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully it won't damage them too badly.
Well, keep your Christmas tree away from the fireplace. That seems like common sense, doesn't it? But you'd be surprised how many careless errors lead to home fires.
In fact, December is the busiest time of the year for firefighters. That's because many items used at Christmas can be hazardous. Lori Johnson has that story.
Wintertime fires often begin when space heaters are placed too close to things that are flammable, like paper or bedding. The rule is make sure your heater is at least 3 feet away from anything combustible.
Even though it's not touching it, it will get that piece of material to its ignition temperature. With that being the point, it will instantaneously catch fire.
Many house fires originate from candles. Make sure you never leave lit candles unattended. Don't burn them longer than 3 hours at a time, and only use ones that have a low center of gravity, because tall candles tip over too easily, and when they do, fire can instantly spread throughout the entire home.
It just takes the flame the size of my fingernail to burn down a home. Fire doubles in size every 30 seconds.
And does this look familiar? Overloading electrical outlets with all those strands of Christmas lights is one of the chief causes of home fires.
What you have right here is called electrical octopus, where you're putting as much into one wall socket as possible. What you want to do, you want to make sure that this wall socket has a fail-safe on it, right? Most of them that plug directly into the wall don't, so that's why we're going to use a power strip.
The power strip, if it's overloaded, will shut itself off before the problem reaches your outlet. So if you use space heaters, candles, or strings of lights this winter, take the necessary precautions to protect your home from fires they sometimes ignite. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Up next, America's satirist-in-chief, P.J. O'Rourke, gives us his take on what's wrong with government.
CBNNews.com. News you want, when you want, 24/7. Stay current with up-to-the-minute stories.
David Brody, CBN News, Capitol Hill.
I don't have to wait for my news anymore.
CBNNews.com at your fingertips all day long.
I only watch the stories I want to see.
I find the story, I click on it, and boom, I'm there.
I'm Chris Mitchell reporting from Jerusalem.
The source for your news, CBNNews.com.
If you have Medicare, you may have questions.
Do you have the right Medicare health plan? Are you saving money? Are you with a company you can rely on?
Now you can get answers to these important questions in this free, fact-filled booklet, Living Better with Medicare. It's your guide to Humana Medicare Advantage plans, and it's yours just by calling 1-877-323-3703 or visiting us online at humanaanswers.com.
With a Humana plan, you get both medical and prescription drug coverage from one of the nation's leading health benefits companies. And you're covered when you see your doctor or specialist, or even if you have to go to the hospital. Humana plans cover many preventive services such as mammograms and prostate exams.
And best of all, Humana Medicare Advantage plans have an affordable monthly health plan premium, or even no plan premium in some areas, so costs are easy to budget. You can get all the facts in this free booklet, Living Better with Medicare. Just call 1-877-323-3703 or go online to humanaanswers.com.
With a Humana plan, you get more. Extras like a fitness center membership and a 24-hour nurse advice line. There's even a prescription home delivery service that's going to save you money and trips to the pharmacy.
To find out if you have the right Medicare health plan, you need to get the facts and learn about the Humana Medicare Advantage plan. Don't put this off. The call and the book are free and there's no obligation. That number again is 1-877-323-3703 or go to humanaanswers.com. Call or go online now for the free booklet so you can get the facts and start living better with a Humana Medicare Advantage plan. Just call 1-877-323-3703.
P.J. O'Rourke is America's leading political satirist and the author of 15 books. He's also a fellow at the Libertarian Cato Institute, and he joins us now to give his take on what's happening in the world of politics. I need to point out, too, that you do some work for NPR. Have you figured out a way to get fired from there yet? Or?
Yes, I have figured out a way to get fired from NPR, but what I need is a way to get fired that will get me $1 million contract over at Fox, and that's what I haven't got figured out. So if anybody's watching and has a good suggestion.
A reference to Juan Williams and his recent controversy.
Yes, that was sad and stupid. I mean of NPR. I don't mean of Juan.
Right. Well, your latest book is entitled "Don't Vote," but you have a rather humorous subtitle that they've asked me not to repeat on Christian television.
and who can blame them?
Is that obviously satire? But are you serious?
Well, I'm serious in this one particular sense. I think that we have allowed the political system to become outsized in our lives. We have many tools for living, many ways to achieve our ends in life. We have religion, we have our families, we have our social organizations, our work, and so on. Politics is just one tool. It's an important tool in a democracy, but we've let it run out of hand. And that is really what I'm getting at, is about not encouraging the politicians. Don't vote, it just encourages the you-know-whats. And I don't want them encouraged. Of course, we have to vote, but...
Well, it almost sounds like, though, that you really don't have much hope for the political system in the U.S.
It isn't that. I think the political system is obviously... a rule of law is an extremely important thing in a free society. Political systems are vitally important. But if we ask that political system to do everything in life, I think of it this way. If I were to ask my wife to take care of the kids, do all the cooking and all the cleaning, plus hold down a second job so that we could get some more income, and do the lawn, and keep her folks happy, keep my folks happy, and on top of all that, to have that ice cold martini and something frilly and pretty waiting for me when I came home from work. Well, I don't even want to go into what would happen at my house if I asked for that. I live in New Hampshire state with liberal gun laws, liberal in the proper sense.
Right.
I'd get shot. That's what it comes down to. Well, that's basically what we have done to our political system. We've said, gee, don't just give me rule of law, and certain sort of basic defense from exterior aggression, defense from interior chaos. Give me health care insurance, too, and everything else you can think of. And we're just overburdening that political situation. We're overburdening that political system, and as a result, that political system gets nutty acting.
Do you find it interesting that liberals are saying that we can't afford to give tax cuts, and some Republicans are saying we can't afford this tax cut measure because it costs too much?
We're just going to have to learn how to afford it. There simply is, you're not creating a decent society when you grab so much of the gross national product to be used in a political way. It's not that politicians are bad or any worse than most of the rest of the people, but actually there's a simple explanation to this. There's only 4 ways to spend money. Spend your own money on yourself, spend your own money on somebody else, spend somebody else's money on yourself, and spend somebody else's money on somebody else.
And that's what we're doing.
And that is what government does. That's why you have to keep money away from the government, because they're spending somebody else's money on somebody else, which means they don't have a dog in the fight, and they don't care what it costs.
Do you think Americans are seeing through the liberal argument that we can't afford tax cuts as if the money's already in the public coffers?
Yes, because the money doesn't come from the government. Money comes from our hard work. And we give a certain portion of it to the government for the sake of having clean streets and other sort of services. Well, we're given plenty. And why are they asking us for more? It's not their money. It's our money. And that's one of the things. If I have a real divide with liberals, it would be, that's not the government's money. That's our money that you're taking from us.
Well, PJ, thanks again for all your insights. We appreciate your humor, and we appreciate you telling the truth as well.
Well, thank you for having me here.
Great to have you. We have more with PJ O'Rourke at CBNNews.com. We'll be right back.
Finding video on CBN.com just got easier. We've taken all our video, the 700 Club, news, testimonies, teachings, plus our 24/7 channels, and put them in one convenient location, CBN TV. Watch what you want, when you want. It's all simple to find, and now easier than ever to email a story to a friend. CBN TV on CBN.com.
If you have Medicare, you may have questions.
Do you have the right Medicare health plan? Are you saving money? Are you with a company you can rely on?
Now you can get answers to these important questions in this free, fact-filled booklet, Living Better with Medicare. It's your guide to Humana Medicare Advantage plans, and it's yours just by calling 1-877-323-3703 or visiting us online at humanaanswers.com.
With a Humana plan, you get both medical and prescription drug coverage from one of the nation's leading health benefits companies. And you're covered when you see your doctor or specialist, or even if you have to go to the hospital. Humana plans cover many preventive services such as mammograms and prostate exams.
And best of all, Humana Medicare Advantage plans have an affordable monthly health plan premium, or even no plan premium in some areas, so costs are easy to budget. You can get all the facts in this free booklet, Living Better with Medicare. Just call 1-877-323-3703 or go online to humanaanswers.com.
With a Humana plan, you get more. Extras like a fitness center membership and a 24-hour nurse advice line. There's even a prescription home delivery service that's going to save you money and trips to the pharmacy.
To find out if you have the right Medicare health plan, you need to get the facts and learn about the Humana Medicare Advantage plan. Don't put this off. The call and the book are free and there's no obligation. That number again is 1-877-323-3703 or go to humanaanswers.com. Call or go online now for the free booklet so you can get the facts and start living better with a Humana Medicare Advantage plan. Just call 1-877-323-3703.
Well, families camped out overnight in California for the 29th annual Miracle on First Street.
Some big names were on hand to dole out free toys and some big smiles to several needy kids. The event spanned over 5 blocks and included thousands of kids. Members of the local community donated Christmas gifts. Each child went home with a present. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and Hollywood stars like Cloris Leachman and Tom Sizemore were on hand to personally distribute the toys.
I see so much love around them. Somebody's with them, caring about them, and they look well taken care of and loved.
Not only do they get a gift to go home with, they get a day they're going to remember for the rest of their lives.
Just to get off yourself and help someone. I was a poor kid, and I know how much it meant to me, and it's just been a great experience for me.
A local police business council and the Oscar de la Hoya Foundation sponsored the event.
That's great.
Fantastic. Well, that's what the true meaning of Christmas is all about.
I lived and worked in Jacksonville, Florida for a number of years, and they had the Dorcas Drake Christmas party in the Jacksonville Coliseum. I don't know if they're still doing it down there, but it was a great event. And the station where I worked was part of that event, and it was so rewarding to go over there and be part of that and handing out the presents to the children. You could tell what a difference it made in their lives.
Yeah, it's better to give than receive.
Yeah.
Well, that's all for this edition of NewsWatch.
See you next time.
Good night.